Welcome to Knife Chats. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, share it with friends, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Thank you. So if you've ever looked at Hobie on YouTube, you know he has a Swiss flag on his channel that he tends to display when he's showing off his Swiss Army knives. Well, I recently picked up this coat of arms patch for the country of Switzerland, and I thought I would start using this when I'm doing videos on my Swiss Army knives. And as this video is going to be on my Alox collection, just a quick overview, I thought I would show the patch off. At the beginning of 2020, I mentioned my plans for the future, and that included picking up the Alox knives by Victorinox because, well, the Pioneer is basically the modern camp knife that is out there. Victorinox makes several other knives on this same frame that are basically derivatives of the camp knife. The Pioneer was the first of the Alox knives that they came out with, and they came out with those back in 1957. I'll talk a little bit more about that in future videos, but I figured what I would do, like I mentioned, is just show off the ones that I have so far. And this was the very first one I picked up, which was a red Pioneer, and really liked the way it looked. And like I said, it's like your typical camp knife. So you have a can opener. In their case, because it's a Swiss Army knife, it has a screwdriver tip here. And that screwdriver tip will work on Phillips screws. And then you have the cap lifter, screwdriver, and a wire stripper. And you notice it has the 90-degree half stop, a punch, and obviously the Spear Master blade, and this one is in the red anodized scales, and I believe the very first ones that came out were also in red anodized scales, but they lacked a key ring. They may have had a bail, but I'm not sure. That might have been optional, but it has not really changed much over time other than minor differences like in the punch and such. As I mentioned, the red Pioneer was the first one I picked up. The second one I picked up is the silver Alox back here, which is a Farmer. And the Farmer is the same as the Pioneer, except it has a saw blade going right down the middle. So that is the real difference between a Pioneer and a Farmer. Those are the only two I have on the 93mm frame. With the exception of a soldier knife here. This knife was adopted in 1961. This is a much later one. The original ones that were adopted were also in red Alox as opposed to silver Alox. I think they switched over to silver Alox in 1965. This is a very recent one of the last ones made. And the way you can tell it is a soldier's knife, number one, is by the shield, which is the coat of arms for Switzerland as opposed to the Victorinox shield. And then the other way you can tell is the blade is marked 99. Now, if it was older than that, at one time it would have a Waffen mark down here where it was accepted in the service, but at a certain time, I'll go into more detail on the soldier's knives in another video, but at a certain time they stopped requiring Victorinox to put the Waffen mark on it, and this 1999 version is after that time. But this is basically the same as a Pioneer, except it lacks the key ring. None of the soldier's knives had a key ring. Well, a few of them had a bail or could have a bail attached. Some of them had a hollow rivet in the back. I'll go into more detail on the soldier's knives at another time, though. Okay, this knife is the Popular. It's an older brand. It's discontinued. It's basically like the Pocket Pal, but it has a key ring down here, and this is one of the older ones, and you can tell because it has the old style cross. This is the original style cross that you would have found on these knives a long time ago, back in 1957 and so on. I'm not exactly sure when the cross changed out. I know this is one of the older populars also, and you can tell that because of this brass key ring back here too. But I think this is around 68, 69, somewhere around there. And like I mentioned, it is like the Pocket Pal in that it has a main spear blade, and right there you have that, and then the other blade you have on there is a pin blade. And this one also, if you notice, it has brass pins holding on the red Alox scales, and it's basically an equal end pin knife, so that's why I liked it, and I guess that's why it was also popular. And over here we have the Cadet, which is also a 4-blade camp knife, and I'm going to collect a lot more Cadets, I think, in the near future. I know I want to get one in red. I found out a few things about red, though. I thought it was a common color, and it is relatively common, but it is not always made. So I know there are red Cadets out there. I will get one of those. And I know that recently they've started these limited edition runs where they put out a different color every year using the Cadet, the Pioneer, and the Classic SD. But the first one I got was a silver Alox. Now it has, you know, the can opener, the bottle opener, a main spear blade. This is built on an 84 millimeter frame, so about 3 3/8 of an inch. And the last blade it has is a nail file, which is one of the things I really like about it. I like that kind of over the punch. I wish it had both, but the fact that it has a nail file is really good. Also, this is slightly smaller at 3 3/8 of an inch, as opposed to about 3 5/8 of an inch, or a little more than 3 5/8 in the 93 millimeter. So this is a lot more pocket friendly, and also, as you can tell, a lot slimmer. So all around, the Cadet is a much more pocket friendly knife and still quite usable. And with the Alox scales, it's extremely light and very versatile for the pocket. So and finally, the last one I have here is the little Classic SD. Now, like I said, this is just an overview of the ones I have so far. I will be doing more on each of these knives actually in the near future, and talk a little bit more about the history of the knives, like when the Classic SD came out in Alox and stuff. And there's several different classic versions or classic style knives that have like an Alox scale, but not the little ribbed Alox like you have here. But it is otherwise just your Classic SD with the pin blade, and then the oops, I always have problems with that. The nail file with the screwdriver tip and the scissors. The thing with all of the Alox knives, because the handles are a flat slab of anodized aluminum, there's no slots in them for toothpicks or tweezers, and it also allows them to be much skinnier and much thinner. So a lot of people like them simply because of that. And they actually take up less space than your typical Classic SD because of just how flat it is. And it is actually lighter than a Classic SD. So like I said, we'll do more on these knives and actually do comparisons of the various things in the near future. This was really just a quick look at which Alox knives I have so far. I will probably do better videos on all of these knives in the near future, but you will be seeing quite a bit more on Alox also this year, because I will be concentrating on collecting more Alox knives, and when I do that, I will also give a better history of the various patterns when I'm doing that. In any case, I'll let you go now and talk to you again soon.
Thank you for visiting Knife Chats. I hope you enjoyed your time here. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel and ringing that notification bell so that you will be notified when the next episode of Knife Chats is up online. Thanks again. See you soon.